Hey internet, welcome back to my channel. Today I have a favorites video because I realized for 2020 I actually never filmed my favorite stationery for 2019. I was thinking of filming one and then I thought maybe I will just do all my favorite black pens slash markers because as you can see there's a lot of them. I actually do use all of these, which crazy, and they all have a specific use, so I thought I would actually, I'm missing one of them. I need to go get that out of my backpack. But yeah, these are the pens. I'm going to go through each one. I'm going to test them out so you can see what they're, oops, it's the lens cap. I'm going to test them out on paper so you can see what they're like. And yeah, let's get right into the video. I'm going to go through each pen in no particular order. So this first pen is probably my most used pen at the moment. Like, I feel like there's always like a default pen that I would use when I'm journaling or anything like that. And this is the PENTEL ENERGEL-X 0.5, which if you've been following me for a while, you guys may find that really strange because I tend to love fine tip pens, and I still do. But I don't know, I've been really enjoying like thicker pens at the moment and just having a bit more of a bolder font when I write. So this is like my favorite so far. This got featured in my Jet Pens haul probably a couple months ago, and you can't even see the ink. I think the ink is just there. Like it was down here when I first got it, and I've used so much of it. I've had to purchase refills for this, but it's a little challenging now because the refills come from Japan, and Japan Post has stopped all postages leaving Japan. I'm kind of in a pickle of how I'm going to refill this eventually when it runs out, but you know, there are worse problems to deal with, so I'm okay. So let's try this out. I think I'm just going to write a beautiful fable each time so it's very consistent. Okay. So what I love about this pen is that it's so comfortable. It's like crazy comfortable. Then I should zoom in a little more so you can see. It's like, yeah, it's one of the most comfortable pens I have ever tried. Really easy to write with. I can write with this for hours and there's like no pain in my hand at all. And so it's just, honestly, it's like a joy to use. I love using it because it's so comfortable. So highly, highly recommend it. My favorite pen right now for sure. Speaking of comfortable pens, here's another one that I find so comfortable and I love it so, so much. You're going to hear that a lot. Sorry if that sounds obnoxious, but I do love this pen. It's really, really comfortable, easy to write, and the ink is like this, very liquid, so it just glides. I don't know why. I feel like this might be a little thicker, even though it is 0.5 as well. I think it's 0.5. Yeah, it is 0.5. So this is a Muji pen. It's a very old Muji pen, so you can see all the writing has rubbed off. They don't sell this particular model anymore. They've replaced it with a different one that kind of looks the same, but it doesn't have this grip on it anymore. And honestly, I hate it. It's so uncomfortable to use. It's really, it hurts this part of my finger every time I use it. So I bought them to try it out, and I just can't use it. So I've gone back to this one. Luckily, the refills are exactly the same for both pens, so I can just keep refilling this pen. But you can see I've used this quite a bit just because of the discoloration on the grip now, but I'm so sad because if this ever breaks, I think I bought an extra one as a backup. I usually tend to do that for pens that I love. I know, crazy. So I won't be too heartbroken if this breaks, but then once I go through that backup, that's it. Muji don't make these pens anymore, so I'm really sad, and I don't know why Muji stopped making them. I remember seeing a video from, is it Study Quill or somebody, who basically was quite upset about it as well, so I'm like, Muji, please bring these pens back. These ones were amazing, your new ones not so great. So I'm gonna write this down. I don't know, when I look at this in comparison to the PENTEL, they both look like the same thickness really, but I don't know, I feel like this is inkier just a little bit. But yeah, they're both very comfortable pens. I would recommend getting the Muji one if you could, but because they don't sell it anymore, I mean, they're both great. The PENTEL's great too. Both great pens. So this one is like a tried and true, is been in pretty much every favorite video I've ever had, and this is the JETSTREAM Uni, or Uni JETSTREAM, 0.38. So it's very fine tip. It was pretty much my first journaling pen ever. So if you watched my Erin Condren planners, like my first ones that I ever released on this channel, I'd been using this pen. I love it. It is ballpoint, by the way. These two first ones were gel. This is ballpoint, so it's not as inky. It is very fine tip, and I still love using it. This is probably the third refill I have in it now, and I just find it to be one of the most comfortable ballpoint pens ever, if I could talk. You know, when you look at the word, like, I'm looking at beautiful so much at the moment that it now feels like it's not spelt right, you know, when you look at words for too long. So yeah, one of my favorite, I've talked about this in so many videos, so I'm sure you're bored of hearing about it, but yeah, it is definitely one of my favorite pens. Keeping on with the gel pens, this is the Pilot G2.38. I actually really love this one. Even though it's 0.38, it doesn't feel as fine tip as most other 0.38s. It feels almost like a 0.5 for some reason, or at least like kind of towards the 0.5. This is probably the second refill I've had in it because I do love it. This was probably my dominant pen before I got the PENTEL, and now it's still really comfortable. I just don't find it to be as good as the PENTEL, but I still keep it around because I still do love using it occasionally. Yeah, you can kind of see the difference in thickness there. But it's very comfortable, works really well. It is a little bit more fine tip, so if I do want something not as thick as this, I can go back to it. But it's just, I don't know, sometimes you just want to try different things, and I feel like my dominant pen tends to change every 6 months to 12 months, something like that, so I might come back to that eventually. So here's another gel pen. And this is the PAPERMATE INKJOY Gel 0.5. I got this in a pack when I was in America, and I tend to not use these regularly, so I have this sitting in a pot with all the other colors. The only reason I wanted to call it out is I like using this for in my bullet journal, where I list all the videos that I create and release. And I don't know why, I feel like it just matches the other colors better in terms of the thickness and the way the ink flows, which might seem very pedantic. And so that's the only reason why I use it. But it is comfortable. I just don't know if it's something I could use consistently, like every single day. But I mean, when you compare them all, they feel like they write very similar for the first two. But yeah, it's just not as comfortable, but I feel like I need to use it if I'm going to use those other color pencils to, say, mark the brands and stuff, so it coordinates with that. So in effect, it does get used quite a bit because of those reasons. I figured I may as well just go through all the gel pens whilst we're here. I've got 2 more gel pens. So this one here is another Pilot pen. It is the Juice Up 0.3, and it is a very fine tip pen. And I love this one. It is very comfortable, and I love using it. It feels like the ink always skips at the start of these pens. You can see how fine tip it is. I love using this for Japanese when I am reviewing my Japanese, especially I have a new planner that I've been putting together. You would have seen it on my vlog channel if that's gone up, and I will do a flip through once it's a little bit more full, because right now it's still very, it needs a little more love. But there's a section where I write all my vocab for my Japanese, and I use this for writing all my kanji, hiragana, katakana, everything like that. Because it's so fine tip, I can put a lot more in a condensed space, whereas if you've seen like Chinese characters, Japanese characters, there's a lot going on in a small space. So if you use a thick pen, then everything has to get really big, and I want to keep it small, so I love using it for that reason. And yeah, you can see it's pretty much the same as the JETSTREAM, the Uni JETSTREAM, except it's gel, so I feel like the saturation is a little bit better than this, which is why I use this. But honestly, I could see myself going back to the JETSTREAM for doing Japanese as well. So this is a special type of pen. I got this idea from one of the planner channels online, and I can't even remember which one. Like Study Quill keeps coming to mind, but I think there's TB Studying as well. So it's one of those where she went through her favorite stationery, specifically black pens as well, I think. And she really loved the grip of the SARASA pens, which I love. Like, I have a whole bunch of SARASA pens, and these are so comfortable to hold as well. But she liked the flowiness of the PENTEL inkjets, the flowiness of the PENTEL ENERGELs. So what she did is she took the refill of the ENERGEL and put it into the SARASA pen, and that's exactly what I did with this one. And so it is one of my favorite fine tip gel black pens to use, and I use this a lot for marking in my monthly view in my bullet journal. I know it sounds strange that I have like specific pens for different pages of my bullet journal, but that's just how it just feels right to me. It makes me happy, so I just go ahead and do it. So yeah, it's kind of like a Frankenstein pen. It's not actually SARASA inside, it is PENTEL. So, but I still think, yeah, it's 0.3 still, so it still keeps to the fineness on the outside. And you can see it's really similar to the Pilot Juice Up, but it is just a slightly thicker, but slightly deeper. It's actually pretty comparable to this one here, the Pilot G2, but I feel like it's just like the tiniest bit finer. Call me crazy. I mean, if you're watching this video and you didn't expect me to be crazy because I talked about like 10 different black pens that I use and I love, then I don't know what you were expecting. But yeah, I think this is just a little bit finer so that it feels like it's more useful for certain situations than this one. Let's go into fountain pens. I have 2 fountain pens, and I think I have 3 in total. I actually don't have many fountain pens because I don't love using them. In terms of, I like using them, but the maintenance that goes into them is just a little bit too much for me because, and I don't know if it's just me or just fountain pens in general, but I find that if you don't consistently use fountain pens, they tend to start to dry up, and then your writing with them gets very like skippy and splotchy. And the only way to get around it is to basically take the ink out and soak the pens and everything inside in like lukewarm water for like 15 minutes, so completely wash it out and then re-ink them again. And it's way too much effort. So I've been using these more consistently, but I've had to wash them out because I stopped using them for about 6 months and then they were completely botched. And so as a result, I don't really buy fountain pens because of the maintenance. But I did want to feature these two because I still do use them and I do enjoy using them when I can. They're both Pilot. This one is like extra fine and this one is the Metropolitan fine. So let me show you. I hope they work. I just used them a couple days ago. This one has kind of like grooves in here, so it's very comfortable to use. But I would say that these are not good to use for long term. Like if you're tending to write for like a couple hours or a lot of writing, I don't find them to be very comfortable. So I use this. You can see this one and which one is it? This one, the Juice Up. This is just a little thicker than the Juice Up, even though I think the Juice Up's 0.3 and this just says extra fine, so it doesn't really give a measurement. I like to use these for headings in my other planner when it's the Japanese section, and then I like using the Juice Up for actually writing the characters itself because I find just this a little bit thicker, so it's like a slightly bolder font to give the title. And then we have the Metropolitan Pilot fountain pen. You can just see how inky it is. So usually when I use this, my fingers get covered with black ink. Luckily nothing now, but if I use it too often, that's usually what happens. So I've been using these in my Japanese class because all my Japanese classes are done remotely now. They're done at my desk right here, so I feel like I have access to all my pens, so I like to like rotate through them. But this is just a really nice inky pen. I mean, now when I'm writing on it, it's not super inky, but this particular fountain pen works really well on glossy sticker paper. So I love using it for glossy sticker paper. I don't know why, but this particular pen feels like the ink absorbs into the glossy paper. Strange. It works really well. It looks really good. However, I would not recommend this pen for the Hobonichi paper because that takes forever to dry. It kind of just sits on the surface of the paper, and I feel like it honestly takes like 20 minutes to dry sometimes because even after 10 minutes I'll touch the ink and all the ink smears into my fingers, and I really hate it. I feel like the Hobonichi paper is a lot better or more receptive to ballpoint pens, but this specifically for glossy sticker paper, so good, so good. Got some markers, which I don't really know if I would classify these as black pens, but I use them a lot, so why not? You would have seen this one. It is the Tombow FUDENOSUKE pen. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong, but it is great for hand lettering, and I use this all the time in my bullet journal. You'll see it featured very often. It's going to be weird just trying to write and not hand letter with this because it has like a flexible tip that allows you to do, like, I'm not going to write the whole word, thick lines and thin lines, so you can like do some really great calligraphy with that. If you're a good calligrapher, then you'll probably use this a lot better than I do, so I love it for that. However, you can see the lines are only so thick, so if I want something a little bit thicker, I go with this pen. And honestly, I don't think this is a specific brand. I think I got this one at Daiso. So this one produces the lines just a little bit thicker, which sometimes you just need to have a bit of variance, so I love that for it. And the last one should be no surprise. It is the Tombow dual tip markers. This one is pretty much on its last leg. I mostly use it now for this side, which is the thinner end, you can see. And I use this a lot for marking my habit trackers because it's just perfect size for creating those little dots. I also have tables in the front of my bullet journal for marking down when I post on Instagram, when I do sales on Etsy, when I do upload YouTube videos, so I love it for that. On this side is the brush tip pen. I used to use this a lot for calligraphy in the front of my bullet journal for each month. I've really stopped doing that now because this has become very, I don't know the term. I feel like if my friend was to say it like munted, I don't know if that's like the right word or not, but you can see it's not as inky. It's still very thick, but I can't get like the fine tip precision as easily. Like it's very like, how do you say, inconsistent with how it deposits the ink because the tip is so flexible now and so loose, so there's really not much control. But I'll still use it if I'm writing like on greeting cards or anything, and on the front I want to write somebody's name in like really big calligraphy, then this is good for that. So I still keep it, and I'm gonna keep it until it literally doesn't work, then I'll just replace it. But it's lasted me a good 2.5 years and I use it quite often, so I'm pretty proud of that. And then 2 more pens left. These are my fine tip pens. Felt tip. I have 2 felt tip pens. I used to only use this SAKURA MICRON. I used to use it in 0.6, was it? It was a thicker one. I actually prefer this 0.3. It's much better to use. And the reason I love these 2 pens is that they are completely waterproof. So if I want to do anything that involves watercolors, which is quite often if you watch my bullet journal videos, then these are perfect for it. So the difference between these two is that this is a bit more permanent markerish, so it does tend to bleed through the paper more. It does have that permanent marker smell as well. So I would tend to use this for those stickers that have a bit of a, no, they're not even glossy, it's like plastic. I think the technical term is waterproof matte paper stickers. It's the ones you get from places like Sweet Kawaii Design, and there's a bunch of other sticker shops where they'll do it, but it's almost like a plastic sticker. And a lot of these pens, especially the gel pens, will not do well on plastic. Ballpoint, hit or miss, but this one will do really well. So that's why I keep this around. I don't use it that often because I don't use stickers like that very often, but it is great when you need to do that. And I got this from a Zenpop box as well. So I didn't even intend to buy it. It just came, and now it's like one of my favorite pens. So let's give these a shot. But this is probably my 2nd or 3rd pen now. Like, unfortunately I can't get refills for this, so I need to just replace the pen. My old one just got really old and didn't work anymore. But yeah, oh, it's so nice, and it's perfect for watercolors, so I know that the ink won't bleed. For a lot of the ones on top, the ink will bleed if you expose it to water, which is why I cannot use it for writing, but I use that one predominantly for my bullet journal. And even though these are both 0.3, you can see this one is quite a bit thicker, and I think it's just the type of ink that's inside the barrel just makes it a little bit more saturated or inky. So let me flip this over so you can see what the bleed through or the shadow through is like. Yeah, no surprise at all. This one bleeds right through because permanent markers do tend to do that. The formula is just that way inclined, but the rest are pretty good. So yeah, those are all my current favorite black pens, markers for 2020. I'm sure in 2021 it's going to change, so maybe I'll do another one. But it has been like almost 2 years to a year and a half since I did any sort of favorite videos, so I might do one in the future, maybe. I mean, you've seen the majority of all my pens, but I do have like highlighters and paints and pencils and a bunch of other like little tools that I've been using that I find really interesting, so I might feature them in a future video. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. I hope you guys enjoy the video. I will have all these pens linked down below if I can find links for them. Thank you so much for watching. This is Celina reporting from my room. Back to the internet.